So we're reading from the Srila Prabhupada Leela Gita, and it is Srila Prabhupada's health was worsening, as often happened when he travelled extensively. Particularly in New York, his health began to suffer. His itinerary was to continue on to London, Paris, Thailand, Bombay, and then to Hyderabad, where he would conduct the opening ceremony of the new ISKCON temple. Senior devotees entreated him to rest a while before going to England and India. He had spent a very pleasant day at the ISKCON farm in Pennsylvania, and the devotees suggested he go there for 2 or 3 months to rest, recover his health, and write. Every day they would beg him to please stay. When he heard that the GBC members in New York had unanimously recommended he not immediately travel, he said, "All right, I will not travel." But he could not be bound by the GBC, however. Shishi Gauri Jai Maya Pashashiki. He could not be bound by the GBC, however, only by Krishna. He had already had his plane tickets and he remained set on traveling. On the morning of Prabhupada's departure, a few devotees came to his room to make last attempt, begging him not to travel. He said nothing, though he was obviously set on leaving. The servants were packing his bags and everything was ready to go. Nevertheless, even as he left his room and got on the elevator, a few men followed, still suggesting he not go. "Prabhupada, please reconsider," said Rameshwar Swami. Srila Prabhupada remained jolly so far, despite his physical weakness and despite his disciples pleading, but now his face changed. Don't travel, one devotee said, and just stay, sit down and rest. Prabhupada turned and his eyes were very deep. More than ever he seemed not of this material world. I want the benediction to go on fighting for Krishna, he said, just like Arjuna. Everyone remained silent, and the important instruction burned into their memories. The elevator opened on the main floor, and hundreds of waiting devotees chanted and cheered as Srila Prabhupada walked to his car. On the way to the airport, the devotees again began talking about how great Kali Yuga was. But you have to go on preaching, Prabhupada advised them. You have to go and try and save these people. As Srila Prabhupada left America, the devotees knew he would remain with them as long as they followed his instructions. Besides, even if he was leaving them, he would return. He was coming from India to New York, then going back to India, then coming to the West. He was always traveling between East and West, tugging the two cultures together, the lame man and the blind. Like Arjuna, he was fighting, and like Narada Muni, he was always traveling, glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. He would never stop, and those who sincerely followed would be with him. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Next chapter is called Chant Hare Krishna and Fight. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, and this chapter is entitled Jagannath Priya instructs King Rahula. That's chapter 11, and it's text 10. Gandakriti, Spasha, Rasa, Shravamsi, Gandakriti, Spasha, Rasa, Shravamsi, Visaga, Rati, Ati, Abhijalpa, Shilpa, Visaga, Rati, Ati, Abhijalpa, Shilpa, Eka Dasham, Swikaranam, Mamati, Eka Dasham, Swikaranam Mamati, Sayam, Aham, Dvadasham, Eka, Ahu, Sayam, Aham, Dvadasam, Eka, Ahu, Gandakriti Spasha Rasa Shravamsi, Visagarati Ati Abhijalpa Shilpa, Ekadasham Swikaranam Mamati, Sayam Maham Dvadasham Eka Ahu, Gandakriti Spasha Rasa Shravamsi, Visagarati Ati Abhijalpa Shilpa, Ekadasham Swikaranam Mamati, Sayamaham Dvadasham Eka Ahu, Gandakriti Spasha Rasa Shravamsi, Visagarati Ati Abhijalpa Shilpa, Ekadasham Swikaranam Mamati, Shayam Aham Dvadasham Eka Ahu,
Gandakriti Spasa Rasa Shravamsi, Visagarati Ata Abhijalpa Shilpa,
Visagarati Ati Abhijalpa Silpa
Ekadasha Svikaranam Mamate
Ekadasham Svikaranam Mameti
Shayam Aham Dravasa Ekaahu
Shayam Aham Dvadasham Ekahu Gandhakriti Sparsha Rasa Shravamsi
Gandhakriti Sparsha Rasa Shravamsi
Visagarati Arti Abhijalpa Shilpa
Visagarati Abhijalpa Shilpa
Ekadasham Svikaranam Mameti
Ekadasham Svikaranam
Shayamaham Dvadasham Ekaahu
Gandhakriti Sparsha Rasa Shravamsi
Gandhakriti Sparsha Rasa Shravamsi
Visagarati Arti Abhijalpa Shilpa
Visagarati Abhijalpa Shilpa
Ekadasham Svikaranam Mameti
Ekadasham Svikaranam Mameti
Shayamaham Dvadasham Ekaahu
Sayamaham Ekaahu Gandha, smell. Akriti, form. Sparsha, touch. Rasa, taste. Shravamsi, and sound. Visaga, evacuating. Rati, sexual intercourse. Ati, movement. Abhijalpa, speaking. Shilpa, grasping or releasing. Ekadasham, 11th. Swikaranam, accepting as. Mama, mine. Iti, thus. Shaya, this body. Aham, I. Dvadasham, 12. Eki, some. Ahu, have said. Translation. Sound, touch, form, taste and smell are the objects of the five knowledge-acquiring senses. Speech, touch, movement, evacuation and sexual intercourse are the objects of the waking senses. Besides this, there is another conception by which one thinks, this is my body, this is my society, this is my family, and this is my nation, and so forth. This 11th function of the mind is called the false ego. According to some philosophers, this is the 12th function, and its field of activity is the body. So responsibly, please. Sound, touch, form, taste, and smell are the objects of the five knowledge-acquiring senses. Speech, touch, movement, evacuation, and sexual intercourse are the objects of the working senses. Besides this, there is another conception by which one thinks, this is my body, this is my society, this is my family, this is my nation, and so forth. This 11th function, that of the mind, is called the false ego. According to some philosophers, this is the 12th function, and its field of activity is the body. There are different objects for the 11 items. Through the nose we can smell, by the eyes we can see, the ears we can hear, and in this way we gather knowledge. Similarly, there are the kamendriyas, the working senses, the hands, legs, genitals, rectum, mouth, and so forth. When the false ego expands, it makes one think, this is my body, family, society, country, etc. Om Jnana Timiranda Shagananyara Shalakaya Chakshuran Maritam Nirna Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gauravaita Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. this one. It's only taken nearly 40 years. Sri Chaitanya Manavishtam Shtavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Vidalmayam Tadati Swavedantika. When Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was established within this material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. Apparently you should say this before you do anything. This is meant to create auspiciousness. So, apologies, it's my wife actually, but she's too exhausted from yesterday, so she asked me to fill in for her. Jadbara is instructing now King Rahugan, and it's surprising to see how much Jadbara actually knows. Jadbara has been playing like a foolish person, like a dumb, almost like mentally retarded person. And then suddenly the king starts being sarcastic with him because he wasn't carrying the palanquin properly. And now Jadbara has decided that the king is going to get the instruction and all the knowledge that he's been keeping hidden. Even Jadbara's father didn't realize how intelligent he was. And now the king. So the king must have been, to some degree, it was a strategic thing to do because, like with Lord Chaitanya, he wouldn't go around trying to convert out all the masses so much, in terms of philosophical discussion. He chose the big leaders like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati, and by defeating them, automatically all their disciples would also comply, and they would chant and become Vaishnavas, and then they would affect some of the other people like that. So in the same way, Jadbara's come for the king. So the palanquin bearers that are hearing all this, they must have also realized, and the king is really taking it on board. Then obviously the king will be very indebted to Jadbara, and Jadbara's position will become established as a great teacher, a great acharya. So we had a devotee that came here for a while. His name was Tejas, and he's a Prabhupada disciple, and he was making some nice points about how we can get through to the professional world. Because when you're on the street distributing books, who is the hardest person to stop?
Business people?
Yeah, usually business people. See, business people are business people because they're more intelligent. So they automatically rise above the Shudras. They're at least Vaishyas. And so they occupy a different strata of society. They live in better houses, they have better cars, eat better food, and they think about things in a deeper and more comprehensive way. So they see a little Hare Krishna with his bag full of books and hopefully full of money. He's been having a good day, and he comes along and says, "Excuse me, sir." And immediately the businessman will divert. He'll see it coming. Actually, he'll give you a wide berth. Very, very, very ill stop him. So these people are professional people, and if you want to impress them, then you have to be professional. In fact, there's a really nice video just now. It's Jay Shetty, and he's with Will Smith. Have you seen it yet? Mm-hmm. So Jay Shetty looks the part. He looks like somebody who knows what you should be doing with the human form of life by the way he's dressed and the way he speaks. So somebody like Will Smith, he's not going to really. It's going to be hard for him to take it if the person explaining the absolute truth to him has got one sock a different colour to the other, with a hole at the top where his toes sticking out, and turmeric stains down the front of his kurta, and maybe his brahmis hanging out or something. But so then it would be very difficult to take him seriously. You see, no offence to the devotee or to the professionals, but that's just the way that they interact with other people. So Tejas was saying, we have to become together materially, conscious materially, not just like spaced out, all over the place, wandering around. We have to be focused. And then when people come in contact with someone who's very focused, they're very impressed. You see that with Jagannath Maharaj, it's a very big impact on these professional, famous people. This is what they're actually looking for, somebody that's spiritually elevated and at the same time is materially very capable. So that's why Maharaj Rahugana, he's totally amazed at the knowledge that Jagannath actually has such a grasp of the philosophy, and he's presenting it very scientifically. And so the king is intelligent enough to realize that this is no ordinary person. And so all this knowledge is coming out now. Anyway, so the challenge is, can we become good devotees and also very professional in our presentation of Krishna consciousness, so that we can get through to this higher strata of society? Because if the businessmen and the politicians start to take it seriously, you can imagine, if Will Smith starts chanting Hare Krishna, that's going to affect a lot of people. He may get fired up and want to do a film, a Ramayana or a Mahabharata or some kind of Krishna conscious theme to the film. So you can imagine, just like with the Beatles, if George Harrison, because he got famous first and accrued a lot of acclaim, and when he said to people, chant Hare Krishna, then they were prepared to take it on board, because he wasn't just somebody off the street who maybe has dropped out from society because nothing really worked for him. I mean, as a prerequisite sometimes taking up spiritual life can be because we are materially unqualified. Things. If we were materially famous and rich, maybe our desire to take up Krishna consciousness wouldn't be so strong. So we're put into a situation which is difficult for us, where things break down, and then we're forced to try and find some solution. So that's good, but then that's not where it ends. It's not that your qualification for spiritual life is because of your disqualification from material life. Because then, if you start to get yourself together spiritually, you start speaking nicer and eating nicer and dressing nicer and keeping clean and organized, and then you may think, I think I'll try that again. Maybe this time I'll get it together. And then we go back out again to try and fulfill material desires. So when we're transitioning from being distressed, which is the main reason, there's four pious people that take up devotional service: the distressed, those in search of opulence, the inquisitive, and those who are searching for the absolute truth. So the majority are just very distressed when they take up spiritual life. So that's great. You take up spiritual life, you realize material life doesn't work for you. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue on trying to become learned and a good speaker and organized and efficient and expert in everything you're doing. Now even more so, you should become materially capable than ever before, because you'll want people to take you seriously. So you have to show them. When you stop somebody, if you do a big city on Sankirtan, if you stop somebody, the city is pulsating at a certain frequency, a certain vibration. I mean, in London, it is so, the people are moving so fast. And if you want to stop them and address them, you have to be very, very fast. You have to be up to the same pace to get them to stop. If you're stopping someone in London, excuse me, we're passing out these, then the person will have gone past, he won't have even stopped, because he'll be thinking, this is probably going to cost me time and money. And of the two, the time is more important even than the money. It's going to just give you some money and get on. But if it's going to take time and money, it's too high a price to pay. So Anyway, Sankirtan is really good for that because it helps you to become, to be a fast thinker and to be entertaining to people, and at the same time saying something, just one or two things which are very profound, and then people think, okay, well if that's what this book can do for you, then maybe it can do that for me as well, so I'm going to take this book and read it, and maybe I'll become like you. I'll become confident and fearless and funny and clever. But if you're stopping people and you look unhappy, spaced out, disorganized, incomprehensible, uncoordinated, then it may actually put them off. They may think, well, if that's what this does for you, I don't know, read this book. So we have to become the item. We have to become the product, actually. We're trying to sell the product, which is Krishna consciousness. So we have to become the perfect example of that. Like we see with Srila Prabhupada. Everybody wanted to be like Srila Prabhupada. Everybody wanted to experience what Srila Prabhupada was experiencing. When Prabhupada saw the deities, everybody wanted to see what Prabhupada was seeing. When Prabhupada was chanting, everybody wanted to experience what it was that Prabhupada was experiencing when he was chanting. Any questions or comments?
Is it a case of being relatable to the type of people that you're presenting the Krishna consciousness to? Because some people are put off by the business, like if it's a salesman, for example, that's smart, they are very together in one sense, and that can be quite off-putting as well to another type of person, say the hipsters or something, or the, whatever you want to call it, emos or whatever, different names for different types of categories of people. And some like spaced out people don't find that appealing at all, and they also. So is it a case of rising to the level of the type of people, or?
Yeah, well, on the subject of Sankirtan, and I suppose we could apply this on a wider principle of just how we practice Krishna consciousness. But if we deal specifically with that question of how do we be professional without putting off people who are maybe not interested in, they may think, oh, he's a real super slick salesman, you know. I don't think I'm going to go for this, you know. So the expertise of doing the Sankirtan, or in fact of presenting Krishna consciousness to anybody, is to be empathic. And empathic means that you're very perceptive of what the person is like, very sensitive to the person's condition. Just like the doctor, you know, the doctor's walking down the ward and he's got a whole load of different medicines in his bag. He's not just taking the same thing in everybody. He's got different, and some of them, they see the light needle and they're running up the ward away from him, you know. So some of them, he has to give them a sugar lump. So he has to adjust according to, and he has to try and assess what the patient's condition is and what's going to be most effective, you know, in terms of administering the medicine, and what's the medicine going to be. Maybe the medicine is just going to be, well, have a nice day, and it was really nice seeing you, and that's all. That's about as far as it goes. There's no exchange of financial exchange. There's no giving of transcendental literature or even prashadam, but just that they go away thinking, he was a very pleasant chap, wasn't he? I told him to get lost, and he just said, oh, have a nice day. And so then that prepares them for the next time. Just like when you're cultivating a field, you don't just start putting everything up. You have to let it grow first, and then when it's ripe, then you can think of picking it. So there's three levels of devotee. The Kanishta, he's happy to just stay in the temple and do some puja and read books and just kind of keep out the way. But then the Majjhima, he wants to go out and he wants to share Krishna consciousness. He's a preacher of the Majjhima. So the Majjhima, he gets the ability to discriminate who's the devotee, who's the non-devotee, who's the envious, and where's Krishna in all of this? So he's able to see these 4 different things, whereas the Kanishta, he's struggling even to see Krishna. He kind of shows his respect to the deities, but he doesn't really appreciate the devotees. He doesn't know a devotee from a non-devotee, and he wouldn't know if somebody was envious. So Kanishta has to be careful, because if he associates with the wrong type of person, he may not even realize this person is actually an asura, a demon, and then he can become poisoned by him. As that came up yesterday, didn't it? Ramaya, the KK was poisoned by Mantra. And she was very elevated, she was the mother of one of the expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and she fell for it. So you have to be very, very careful. So you may think, well, I don't want to go and preach, I want to stay safe. But if you want to stay safe, then you better go and preach, because while preaching, you'll get the ability to discriminate who is an asura, who is a demoniac person, and who's innocent, and who's a devotee. And if you see the person's innocent, then you can't expect so much from them, because Rupa Goswami says that unless you've practiced devotional service in a previous life, then you won't be able to understand the literature so easily. It'll be hard for you to assimilate the information in the books. But if you have practiced in a previous life, then as you're reading the books, you'll get the experience that this is something that I was thinking about before. I don't quite know when or where, but this is like some unfinished business, and these books are reminding me of that unfinished business. So that means past life in a devotee. So those ones, when you're distributing books, if you can meet someone that's been a devotee in his past life, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you can be empowered to see. You can actually see the person. Sometimes they're walking down the road, and you can just see the person has a bright face, and you think, oh, he would like a book. And you go over and you say, I've been looking for a Bhagavad Gita for ages. And so then you're getting blessed with the Madhyama vision to be able to see. And then sometimes you'll see somebody, you can just tell by the person's energy that this is a demoniac person. And if they're very, very demoniac, then it's best to avoid interaction with them, because you won't change a demon very easily. They're very convinced about where they're going. Dambo Dapa Bhimanasya, Krodapurusha Ayucha, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature. So, you could maybe give them some prashadam, but you wouldn't want to confront them, really. You wouldn't want to act them, Don't poke the bear. Just, okay. Not that everyone should be thinking, oh, I need to go out and Sankirtan, but that's the benefits of it. And we'd like to get the weekend warriors up and running with our tent and our kirtan once the lockdown unlocks completely. And so that'll be something that we'd like to do, have a weekend warrior. And people can try handing out some leaflets and maybe give out some books that are already sponsored. Giving out books is easy. Asking for donations is the difficult part. But sometimes people will just say, if you present it nicely, they'll just say, wow, that's really nice. Can I give you something for it? Okay then. But it's good to do that. Harinam is also a form of its distribution of transcendental vibration, the same as books. So Harinam is also good. We were doing Harinam every Saturday night under the bridge outside Central Station just before the pandemic kicked off. And that was starting to go really well, actually. Getting some nice contributions as well. People just coming along and throwing something in the hat. That was really nice. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah. I've heard that a good way to ask for donations is just to say that if you give a donation, then you will be able to, the knowledge will be revealed to you from the book, from the spiritual master, and you're more likely to get understand the knowledge if you offer a donation. That way people offer a donation, they're more eager to offer a donation.
Yeah, that's what Vaisheshika Prabhu is saying. He says that by you giving a donation, you'll get the blessings to be able to understand the books, rather than just being given the book freely. You get the book free. And Srila Prabhupada says like that as well. He said that if they have to give some money, then when they go back, they don't want to just throw it in the bin. They're thinking, I've given some money for this nonsense book. Let me see what it's all about. Confirmed. So yeah, less chance of people throwing them away. If you're just giving a book for free, even if it's a nice book, it's not like it is been given away for free. She should really
Yeah.
But if you can present the book in such a nice way that they really, really want this book, and so then they will give a nice donation.
I was thinking back to my yoga teacher training, and one thing that really stuck with me was when I was told that you can't make everybody stay, you can't make everybody like the way you teach, but as long as you have people leaving feeling like they've had a pleasurable experience or a nice experience, and I guess we can take that into book distribution as well. We can't have everybody, can't expect everybody to take a book, we can't expect everybody to come to the temple, but as long as they leave you feeling like they've had a good experience with you, then win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, and also the nature of, especially our book, I mean, one time when we were doing book distribution, we used to just go from town to town. We didn't go back to the same town because some of the people may have been a little agitated with our techniques, which were quite intense at the time. So we would leave that town to cool off. But now we go back to the same city over and over and over again. So you have to leave everybody nice. And then if the person's a little rude to you and you're nice back, that makes them think. If you think yourself, somebody comes up to you and says, would you like to help save starving dolphins in the Pacific Ocean? And you say, oh, get lost. And they say to you, oh, yeah, no problem. Hey, listen, have a nice day. When you go away, you think, maybe next time I'll help them. Actually, that was really bad. I shouldn't have said that. So if you're just patient and you maintain a nice attitude towards people, then eventually, after sometimes years, they eventually start saying, come on, then what is it all about? And then they take a look. So yeah, you're creating the environment that you live in, you see. So you could blame the environment, you could say, oh, these people are really horrible, or you could blame yourself and say, maybe I should be nicer to the people, and then I can create a nicer environment. It's like a farmer, the farmer is saying, this field is so horrible, look, there's weeds here, and this thing is growing, I never planted that, and look at this, it's all over the place. So the farmer could say like that. But then the farmer could be a bit more proactive, a bit more Krishna conscious, and he could think, well, maybe I should start taking these things out and putting these things in and cultivating the field, so that eventually when I go back to the field, it's just full of beautiful flowers. So that's what Sankirtan is like. You're cultivating the field. So you're leaving everybody with a nice seed, some nice thoughts, some nice intentions, some nice exchanges. And then after a while, people start to warm up to you, and they think he's always so happy and so friendly, and then there's a chance they can take a book. We have to be a little bit patient. We have a tendency to be very fruitive, so we're looking for an immediate result. And the more attached we are to the result, the more intense the exchange is with the people. And so that can make them feel a little suspicious. If someone stops and asks you to give a contribution to help a dolphin, and you say, no, I don't think I will, and they get very upset, immediately you think, well, why are you so concerned? It's for the dolphin, it's not for you. So we just say, oh, no problem, have a nice day, maybe next time. And there's a chance that they will. But you get a chance to really practice your technique and your approach and your attitude by approaching people, and it's good for learning. The main reason that we're out there on book distribution It's because we're learning how to chant the holy name. That's what we're doing actually. The reason we're doing Arti right now is so that we can chant Hare Krishna better. The reason we're doing a service today is so that we can chant Hare Krishna better. The reason we distribute books is so that we can chant Hare Krishna better. Because at the time of death, you're not going to be doing book distribution, or Harinam, or Arti, or growing potatoes. You're going to be leaving your body, and the only thing you'll be able to do is chant Hare Krishna. So you have to make sure that by the time that happens, you know how to chant Hare Krishna properly. And chant Hare Krishna is not so easy actually. It seems like it's easy. You just say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What could be easier than that? You just have to say that. That's it. That's so easy. But try doing it over a sustained period of time, and then you find it's not so easy. For all different types of reasons. Because you're trying to penetrate into a different reality, a different dimension, a different strata of existence that right now we're outside of. We're disqualified. One time in the Buddha came to Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, I just fell into Maya. And Prabhupada said, no, you're always in Maya. Sometimes you fall into Krishna. So we're in Maya, here we are in the material world, in a body that we think is us. With the senses and the working organs and the false ego. It's a pretty neat package. We're really wrapped up inside, you know. It's not like just wearing a mask and you can kind of pull the mask down and see what you really look like in the mirror. You know, it's a very foolproof disguise that we're in right now. And it takes a certain intensity to penetrate through that membrane of the illusion. One time somebody was explaining to me, chanting Hare Krishna is like trying to look through a waterfall. So the water is pouring all the time, and the water is all the distracting thoughts. And on the other side of the waterfall is Radha Krishna Vigraha, the beautiful forms of Radharani and Krishna. And we're chanting, and we have to chant with a certain level of intensity to penetrate through that waterfall and to be able to perceive them, you see. So it takes a sustained and focused effort to be able to do that. And if you become distracted along the way, then you'll just remain on this side of the waterfall. You won't see the Radha and Krishna. You'll be like, Hare Krishna. I'm not sure if this really works, you know. And I've got to sew my socks today. Do you remember that person looking at me trying to shop? That was so rude. I'm going to get my own back. Oh yeah, I've got to sew all my socks. You're just on the other side of the waterfall. You're not seeing Radha and Krishna. You can see when someone's seeing Radha and Krishna when they're chanting. They're on the edge of their seat, and there's tears in their eyes, and all their hair standing up, and they're chanting Hare Krishna. Most of us are trying to chant.
So how do we do that?
How do we do it? Well, it's not so. It's an art chanting Hare Krishna. There's so many factors that are involved. If you do your service nicely the day before and you've not made offences to anybody, then the holy name is more inclined to appear. Also, if it's a special day like the appearance of Radha Ramachandra, Janmashtami, the Senior Chodashi, again, there's more chance. You get some special mercy on those days if you try and do some nice service, offer some nice prayers, and you've got more chance. But it's reciprocal. It's not just I will chant. I was chanting like this the other day. I was standing on my left leg, and I was looking out the window, and I had my blue knee-length socks on. So the next day you get down, you get on your left leg, you get the socks on, and you're looking out the window, and you're chanting, and it doesn't work because it's not a mechanical arrangement that's going to make Krishna. You can't control Krishna. That day he was pleased with you, and today he's not pleased with you. So every day you. But what he is pleased with is when you pick up your bead bag, then you have a very intense desire and a very strong faith that beyond the waterfall of this mind, Radha and Krishna are there in sound. If you're convinced of that and then you chant like anything and really try, then you can push through. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur compared it to an opium smoker. And the opium smoker's got his pipe and he's trying to light it to get high off the opium. The only problem is the fire that he's trying to light the pipe is on the other side of the river. So the fire's over here, the opium smoke is here with the pipe full of opium. And he's trying to get the pipe to light, and the river is fast flowing, and it's the river of his disqualifications. So the opium smoker is going to have to push through that river to get to the other side to light his pipe. And the river flows faster on the edges. If you ever fall into a river, the middle of the river goes quite slow. But when you come into the edge, coming up the river goes faster. So just as you're coming out of the material energy, that's when it all gets a bit more intense. But that's just before you see Krishna. So you have to have that determination and that intelligence to know what's happening here. Oh, it seems to be going worse. I'm chanting it. Everything's getting worse. Maybe I should give up. Maybe I should give up. Maybe I shouldn't give up. Maybe I'm getting really close. And if you can just push through. And once you get a glimpse, then you know after that that this is it. This is all I have to do. I have to be determined and focused. And every day can be good. Every chapter session can be good, you know. Because that's what the mind is always telling us when we're chanting, well, it's useless today. I don't even know why you're bothering to try. It's useless. No, you were offensive yesterday. You didn't wash the pots properly. What do you expect, you know? Don't even bother. Just put the bead back down and go and crash out for an hour, you know. So the mind's always... But if the mind and Maya are trying to tell you not to stop, to try and stop you chanting, then you should be thinking, well, if it's so useless, why are you trying to get me to stop? So then there must be something in it. There must be I must be very close, otherwise why would you be trying so hard to get me to stop?
Oh my God.
So you should be thinking, oh, okay, so this is you playing that game, are you? And that's why we need to understand, we have to have the knowledge. It's called Sambandha. If you can get all the knowledge, all the information in, and if you can collect inspirational passages about chanting, so that when you pick up your bead bag, you've got a whole armory of really, really positive things that you're going to fire at the mind that's trying to get you to stop and put the bead back down. If you chant as well, the idea is you chant at the beginning of the day because that's your psychic armor, that will deflect anything. If you chant at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, you've already been in the battle now. What's the point in trying to find a shield now? You needed the shield when you were on the battlefield during the course of the day's activities. And Maya was throwing this at you, throwing that at you. And you can deflect. If you have your mantras are good, then when Maya comes up, you can deflect it. It'll just bounce off. And also you get the sword as well of transcendental knowledge, so you can deflect and then you can dissect. So Maya says, well, you can try this, you go, no, and then you dissect it. It's nonsense. No. Nonsense, no, nonsense, no, nonsense. So you get the sword of transcendental knowledge, and you get the shield as well to deflect you. And for those of you that didn't know, we actually are at war. We're in the battle right now. We're in the battle of Kurukshetra, and Krishna is saying, chant Hare Krishna and fight, stand and fight, armed with yoga, stand and fight. He could have just said to Arjuna, well, look, I'm God, you know, you chill out, come take an hour's rest, I'll take care of it, I'll just make sure everyone is killed. Prabhupada says, he didn't say to Arjuna, you just smoke ganja, I'll take care of it. He didn't tell Arjuna that. He said to Arjuna, fight, and then he said, by the way, they're already dead, I will be seen to that, but just fight. So in the same way, Lord Chaitanya is saying, look, you just try the best that you can. I guarantee you'll go back to Godhead this lifetime. You've already won, but you must turn up on the battlefield and fight. That's what Lord Chaitanya is telling us. Just give this one life. Take initiation, follow nicely, chant every day, and this will be your last lifetime. And we don't know how many, there's 400 species just in the human form. And most of them are like Aboriginal and tribal, and then there's a handful of people out of that that are interested in practicing spiritual lives. It's like, And then you've got all the others. There's like 2 million species of reptiles and insects, 1 million species of plants and herbs, 1 million species of this. All these species, you know. And we're just coming out of it now. And here we are in Kurumak before Shishikun and Canada, for some strange reason it does. It's personally speaking anyway. And we could be on our way out now. This could be it, the last one, the last lifetime. If you have to come back again, you've got to learn everything all over again. ABC, 1, 2, 3, all the stuff, you've got to go through the whole thing all over again. So if you're thinking it's going to be a hassle to do this Krishna consciousness, it's going to be even more of a hassle if you leave it to the next lifetime. It'll be like this, but worse again. So you better just, every time you think of giving up in Krishna consciousness, you decide, no, I'm going to continue. You just saved yourself a lifetime. So that could be you could have quite a few lifetimes in one lifetime if you can just keep saying, no, I'm not going to give up. Because if you give up and then you get back into Maya, it may be maybe until the next lifetime before you take it up again, if you take it up again. Because you always have the choice. But if you just say, no, I'm sticking with this, and you save a lifetime.
If we're really getting a Krishna consciousness or don't complete it all in this lifetime, then Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says that we start from where we left off.
Yeah.
So is that still would that mean that we just start from where we left off then?
Yeah, he says that we will be automatically attracted to the principles of yoga and spiritual things. However, the problem is Kali Yuga is getting more and more intense. So taking up Krishna consciousness in the future could be more problematic. More distractions. When technology becomes advanced, then Maya's ability to distract becomes more advanced as well. So you kind of, and it's like kind of gambling as well. Okay, Krishna's saying, look, I've got your back, but we don't want to in any way allow that to weaken our resolve, to try the best that we can. It's a bit like somebody running to do a pole vault, and he's running to do the pole vault, and just as he's about to sprint off on the pole, someone's standing there and they say, listen, don't worry if you don't make it. It's okay, There's plenty of other Olympic games that you can be in, and then you think, yeah, okay, so you don't try your full 100%. So we want to reject anything that's unfavorable, because the fact is actually, even if you do run for the pole vault and you're giving it everything you've got, you're only going to make it if Krishna helps. He puts his hand in and helps you go across. But he'll only do that if he sees that you've tried as hard as you can, then Krishna steps in. So that's when Krishna consciousness becomes easy, when you're not trying to make it easy. When you're trying to do everything really, really nicely, that's when it becomes easy. It's counterintuitive, because you would think, well, if I cut corners and do it a bit sloppy, and I'm a bit spaced out, and a bit kind of sluggish in my attitude, at least it'll make it easier for me to do it. But it will just make it really, really difficult. Whereas if you're really trying to do everything nicely, and you try to organise everything, and all your clothes are nice and neat, and everything, your workspace is clean, and everything's nice, and you've got good relationships, and everything is sparkling clean, and you're doing everything, and trying to learn all the verses and the slokas and understand everything, then Krishna will help. They say Krishna consciousness solves all problems, but not sloppy Krishna consciousness. If it's sloppy, then it just doesn't work, At the same time, Krishna, he sees, one devotee may be really together materially, and another devotee may be, he may be trying like anything, and he just hasn't got the karma for things to really work well for him, but he's trying like anything. So you would think, oh well, this devotee must be pleasing Krishna more because he's so together and this one's so spaced out. But you don't know how hard this one's trying. This one maybe isn't trying at all because it's not just going to be so easy for him. And someone else is trying like anything. And it's very, very difficult. Every time they pass out a book, it's like a huge thing for them. So Krishna is really, really pleased that someone is trying like that, trying like anything, even though it's so difficult for them. Whereas the person who's got good karma, he may do devotional service for a few years, and then when his good karma runs out and he starts getting tough, then he just leaves. Whereas the one who's found it tough right from the word go, he's used to that, and he's got strong in his Krishna consciousness. He doesn't give up when things get tough. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Keep on keeping on. Okay, so I'll finish then. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Yaskangaravan Ki Jai, Shri Baba Ki Jai, Go Premanandi,